Hey folks, Nicholas Field here, and today I'm going to talk to you about my new production sound bag build for 2024 and beyond. I'm basically approaching this video more of like an off-the-cuff kind of ramble, just talking about, how I put this bag together, why I chose the components for the build, and kind of my philosophy behind what I'm hoping to achieve with this rig. Okay, first of all, I want to talk about, moving on from one piece of gear to another, and I was using the Sound Devices 633 for the last like 6 years, and it's been super solid and it's never really let me down. The only sort of complaint that I would have with the unit is that the line inputs on channels 4 through 6 don't have analog limiters like the first three. And so sometimes if you're in an environment working with talent that are really dynamic speakers, or they might be, unexpectedly yelling or screaming, you don't really have time to gain down and like navigate that appropriately. And when that happens, you might get some clipping, and that's to me like not a great thing to deliver to post, especially when I'm always trying to do the best that I can, right? And so knowing that there's gear out there now that has analog limiters on every input, that was really appealing to me. And there's something about selling gear at the right time and knowing like when it's appropriate to sell so that you can recoup some of your costs on that asset. So like for me, I bought this 633 6 years ago, or no, 5 years ago now. And now it's worth like about $1,500 less than I paid for it. So I feel like I've made really good rental off of the unit, and I found a great deal on a used 833. So I felt like it was a good time to kind of move on and let some other mixer enjoy the 633. And occasionally I would need more than 6 channels on some random jobs, and I would bring out my Zoom F8N, which is like a backup recorder that I have, and I just didn't love using it, especially on those heavier days where I'm trying to like manage more moving parts. I guess I'm spoiled from using units like these that are just like so thoughtfully designed and just feel so good. So yeah, without further ado, let's talk about the setup here. So this is a Sound Devices 833, and it also has a XL AES attachment. And this allows me basically to run 8 channels of AES through this little block that you just screw onto the top there. And so using that, I'm running my Wisycom MCR54 into the AES using one output from here into 2 inputs on here, and I get 4 channels total of wireless. So that's pretty sick because it's really minimalizing the cable gack that's going on in the bag there. And my philosophy with this bag is that it could be a super flexible centerpiece to my setup and evolve really quickly and easily, depending on the type of job that I'm taking on. And because I work a lot of really random jobs as a non-union sound mixer, my needs change really fast. So for most commercials and docks, I don't require a ton of channels. But the cool thing about this setup is I can run up to 12 fully featured channels if I need them. So that's twice as many as my 633 was able to do, and it's the exact same size. So that's pretty sick. And I haven't worked yet on a project that needed more than 12 channels ever. And I know it happens, but it's not happening to me. I even have like worked on like bigger feature films and stuff, and on our heaviest days it was like 11 channels or something, or 12 channels at the most. And in a pinch you can even do 14 ISOs. So you could route some 2 channels to like ISO tracks and just deliver them to post as like separate from the mix. Say like it's like a random ambience mic or a plant mic or something. I digress. So the wireless that I'm running is Wisycom. It's like the latest Wisycom receiver, and it's 100% analog, and I love it. And I'm basically running whips 24/7 unless I'm in like a super whack situation where I have to be like hundreds of feet from the talent, or like, usually I can just get close enough, and the range on this system is incredible. It's probably the best in the world right now. I'm sure I'll get some pushback from people in the comments, but I think that this is the best range you can get out of any wireless system right now. Over here we have the battery distributor. Now, this thing is pretty sick. It's a new product from AudioRoot, and I decided to integrate it into my setup for a few reasons. And I've been using this like pretty straightforward little distro for the last 5 years with my 633, and it's also been solid, like it's 0 issues. So that's now my backup distro. And the one thing that always kind of like bothered me about it, well, didn't bother me because I never had any issues, but it has a hardwired input. So that's not like user replaceable in the field. Whereas this one, all of the battery cup things are replaceable in the field in the sense that you can just plug in a new one to your distro and you're off to the races. So that's kind of dope. But the main reason I went for this system is that I heard that the 833 was a lot more power hungry than my 633, and I wanted to be able to run multiple batteries. So I'm using these big ones here on the front of the bag, and I also have like a 49 watt hour one stashed in the bottom of the bag, and that's set up as like a backup. So this is my priority, and then the smaller one is like a redundancy to kick in when I want to swap batteries and do hot swapping, which is like, when you're in the middle of a take and you need to swap a battery and keep rolling, and this system will keep everything running in the meantime. I used to be able to hot swap batteries with the 633 because it has built-in AA batteries, so you could just like quickly switch things over, and it's called power safe mode. On the new 833, you have to actually use L-mount batteries on the bottom if you want to have that functionality, and I don't have any L-mount batteries, and I just thought it's better to stick with like this ecosystem of smart batteries. So that's what I decided to do. And then it can distribute up to 3 batteries. So if you're on a cart, you can use one input for a larger battery, or even use shore power. Yeah, and then you can set them to be whatever priority you want. And when you need to run and gun, you can just unplug. And the really cool thing about this distro is that it has outputs on the front, which I've never seen before on any other bag distro. But this has a high ROSI output here. And so let's say like you've got this on a cart and you want to have monitors powered from your bag. Basically, you just plug it into a high ROSI on the front there. And then if you need to go do like a car scene or something, you just unplug and you're running and gunning there. And over here is like a USB-C power delivery. So I don't think any other distro has this right now. But essentially with power delivery, you can run like high wattages through USB-C. So you can power like a MacBook with this. And my thinking is that, with a machine like this that has a USB interface, it's also good to be able to be autonomous like with a laptop. So if you wanted to set up a quick like Pro Tools thing, or like, record or send something to like a remote client, you can also be powering the laptop from your bag and you can remain autonomous. Yeah, I also grabbed, this is kind of like gnarly for my bag. Honestly, like it's probably overkill for a lot of jobs. And so I also picked up this splitter cable, and this splitter cable basically connects from one smart battery, and then it can power my receiver, and it can power the 833, and it can also send like the telemetry information from the battery to display on the screen of the 833. So you can tell exactly like what percentage is left in your battery on your screen. And that's just like a lighter setup. So say I do a lot of these corporate gigs where I don't need a ton of routing. I don't even really need a Comtech. They don't really want hops on these jobs. It's just like super minimal. So I can basically take this whole module off and replace it with like this really minimal BDS. And I'm set for like a super minimal setup. And then on the other hand, if I am approaching like a really busy shoot where I have potentially like up to 12 channels, I also have this module from Protogear. And this is basically, it has these Modulocks connectors, and those receive onto my bag, click in, and then I can just put these onto here. And I have the ability to do, you could put 3 receivers in here and like an RF distro, and you're laughing, and suddenly you have like, an incredibly powerful bag setup. But for me and a lot of people I know, like we don't have to run super crazy amounts of channels all the time. So I like having a setup that is like quite modular and is able to like shrink down to a decent footprint or expand depending on the types of things that I'm going out for. Moving over to the side, I just have a little Comtech transmitter. I did a whole video about why I like using the Comtech for like a public feed. So check that out if you're interested in me discussing my thoughts on these things. And over here is just a, camera hop, or, it's like a private line or whatever. Like, I just basically have it here, and I've set up a bunch of buses, and that's like one of my favorite things about this little 833 is that you can basically name all of your buses individual things. So I have like a Comtech bus, broadcast mix, camera hop, private line, and then you can even name like the outputs themselves. So like the way I have it routed, I've named the Comtech out and the hop out, so I know where those physical inputs are. And then it just makes it really easy to, when you need to route something, you can just like, go in, choose your camera hop, and decide what you want to send to the camera. And usually it's everything, right? So I just have it set up as a preset here. And then the last thing that I wanted to touch on this bag is I have a little tentacle sync right here. And basically I'm just running the tentacle system. I have one on the bag, and then I have 4 additional. And it's pretty dope because you just turn it on at the beginning of the day, wirelessly jam all your tentacles, and you're basically set. So it reduces having to like plug and unplug anything. Just keeps things moving fast and easy, which is how I like it. And then also, like, the cool thing with this setup is on the side here, I have nothing plugged in. I have this one little like pigtail cable that I built to easily plug in a cabled boom. But all of my inputs on the side are open because of the AES. So I can plug, 6 additional things just right into the side. So if I have like last minute I need to add in another channel or 2, I can just like fucking plug them in there. And then you can just digitally route anything anywhere with the machine. So it definitely takes the pressure off in terms of having to like juggle your inputs and try to understand like what goes where, because at the end of the day, like, you can change where things are going in the middle of a recording. You can literally, I could, plug in a boom and add in a second boom and do that during a recording session if I needed to. I don't know like what type of shoot I'd be on where that would be necessary, but it's pretty cool that you can do that type of thing now. And I've heard about people moving things around on the fly. Like if you're on a reality show and you're doing just like a free run recording for like 8 hours straight, you need to add in another talent, you can just turn on that channel and it actually like integrates that, which would not be the case on the 633. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at with my sound bag. I'm thinking about getting a little controller to go here to control channels 7 and 8. There's like some cool things being made by folks across the pond, so I'm thinking about integrating one of those. And otherwise, yeah, this is where I'm at for hopefully the next several years. If you have any questions about the setup or comments, please leave me a comment in the section below. And I love like chatting with y'all and hearing what you have to say. So I appreciate this is becoming more and more of like a place to learn and share knowledge with one another. I'll be doing more videos about like the 833 in the future, highlighting some of my favorite features about it. So stay tuned for that. Thanks so much. Peace.